I think, Reverend Martin, that we're losing really a wonderful opportunity to be able to talk with Madalyn Murray instead of going through. Incidentally, I wished you would, because I myself, I've heard this too, and I'm not saying that you don't know what you're talking about, but I must admit I don't understand it. What is it meant through the grace of Jesus Christ?
The word grace in the New Testament usage simply means something that's unmerited as a gift from God. I started to say before I was interrupted that Christ redeemed me by his grace. That is, I didn't deserve it. And it was a gift, redemption, through faith in the cross.
Well, it's just
the word comes from a New Testament context.
I'm asking you to explain this to me with the mentality of about a 10-year-old child. Don't tell me to read the Bible now. Now, I want you to tell me. Yes, go ahead.
All right, do it with an illustration. You are brought into a courtroom guilty of a crime.
Oh, I'm never brought into a courtroom guilty of a crime. So then don't tell me I'm brought into a courtroom. That's a poor analogy.
Would you not?
I have been indicted for a crime, and now I'm going to trial.
You're up for sentencing. Can you let me finish?
Well, you've already told me I'm
you're brought into a courtroom, guilty of a crime, you're up for sentencing. Before I can say the sentence, you're up for sentencing, you're already correcting me.
I see. All right.
Can you be convicted and be brought in for sentencing?
Yes.
Thank you. You concede that, Mrs. Murray. That's one thing you will concede. Thank you. I didn't get a concession, I got a laugh. But it's better than what I've been getting. All right, now.
Well, that's what you're here for, is laughs.
Yeah, oh, you got me here for a laugh, but the Lord's got me here for a reason. Now.
Oh, dear.
You're coming up for sentencing.
Yes.
You've been convicted of a crime.
Yes.
Now, if you can imagine a person with the power to intercede for you, though you are guilty, and to actually bear the punishment which you deserve for that crime. This is grace. And this is what God did for us in Christ on the cross.
This is what Abraham Lincoln scoffed at as saying the Christian method of salvation.
You know,
what was this crime that
John, can I,
it was the original sin of Adam and Eve, wasn't it?
No. Can I finish?
This is the original sin
Can
of
I finish? Can I finish?
Well, good. Let him finish, Madalyn.
John,
we both learn something, Madalyn.
Well, we can give it a try. I mean, it may be hard, but give it a try. The point that I'm trying to make is you asked for definition of grace. That's it. An unmerited gift that you don't earn.
I'm going to say I don't understand it, but nevertheless, you've tried hard.
Because it's none. If you can't understand that, I have to concede it, but we won't. You said it, I didn't.
Yeah,
the point is...
I must admit, I'm very stupid. I don't understand that.
All right.
And I think that the average person hearing that phrase doesn't know what you're talking about, and I don't think you do either. But you go ahead.
I simply illustrated the fact of what grace was, and I gave the illustration.
How did you see this light? In other words, what happened? Did you get a peculiar feeling or something that day?
No. By reading the scriptures and by seeing other people live the Christian life, I began to do what the scriptures
You know of anybody that lives the Christian
life?
life?
Yes, I do. I sought to find out whether or not this was true.
How would you know when a person is living a Christian life?
Can I finish?
No.
I'm asking you a question.
Look, I do an interview show, Walter.
Yes, John, but
I don't let you come up to make speeches.
Wait a minute. You're going to...
This is an interview.
Now, wait a minute. Don't get yourself all worked up. You asked
You have God on your side.
You asked
You haven't got me on your side.
Oh, I knew that before I got here.
All right.
You asked me a question. Before I can answer it, you asked me a second one.
You're using terms, and I asked you, what does that mean?
I defined it.
Now tell me about these Christian people.
Do you define it with other nonsense terms? When you say that God took away, or Christ, through his dying on the cross, took away your sins, this is ridiculous.
Why?
You weren't even
because you don't believe it?
No, you weren't in existence then, and Christ isn't a historic person, and the whole thing is
Mrs. Murray, the statement
mind.
you just made, Christ is not an historic person, is a very interesting one. Would you care to document for us the proof of the non-existence of Jesus Christ?
Oh, come on. Nobody ever proves the negative, and you know this. So
wait a moment.
You dreamed him up.
Wait a moment.
You proved
Wait a moment. If you're going to say that Jesus Christ never existed, if you're going to say this, then you're going to have to answer to people who agree with your position, who affirm vigorously the historical evidence that he did exist.
There's no historical evidence of Christ, and you know it. Now, don't be asinine and use...
There isn't any historical evidence.
There is no historical evidence. The only evidence that there is in the mythology of the Old Testament, which nobody can understand, and in which a person is described in one manner in one chapter and another manner in another chapter. Christ is probably the most mixed-up person in the world if you take a New Testament definition.
You believe in the historical existence of Jesus of Nazareth?
No.
And
it isn't a matter of not believing or disbelieving it. It's a matter of fact that there is no historical, archaeological, cultural, or sociological, no proof whatever that he ever existed.
Please, can I ask you a question? What would you consider evidence of his existence? As a lawyer, what would you consider evidence?
It doesn't matter what I would consider as evidence.
Well, I'm trying to communicate with you.
No. The thing is what is there. And then you take an analysis of what is there. Now, the Romans were very fine historians. They really were. They kept a beautiful set of records in their Senate. If there ever had been a trial of Jesus Christ under Pontius Pilate, it would most probably be in their records. There is nothing. There is absolutely no historic proof. There's an interpolation in Josephus.
Wait a minute.
And everybody understands.
Who understands?
Every single.
Have you ever traced back the antiquity of Josephus's copies?
Among other things.
You have?
What, 15 years ago?
At the moment.
Done with it.
No, I mean this. How far back have you gone with Josephus?
I don't remember.
No, I can tell you don't. I know why you don't remember. Because the oldest manuscripts of Josephus, dating below the Middle Ages, do have...
below the Middle Ages. Below the Middle Ages. Tacitus. Tacitus did not have a reference to any Christos before Origen, and you know it.
Between who? Before who? Origen?
Well, this is I'm very poor with my pronunciation.
You're not only poor with your pronunciation, you don't know anything about history.
Origen. I don't know how to pronounce it.
Well, Origen happened to be a second century church father.
It just so happens that at the time that he was writing, he didn't know of this reference in Tacitus.
The point that I'm making...
right down the line,
you're not going to get me. You're not going to get me.
There is none.
You're not going to get me off the historical point.
Let Reverend Martin. Go ahead, Waller.
You're not going to get off the historical point.
So you believe in David Copperfield, too. I don't care.
Mrs.
Wait, let him finish his
Murray,
point, please.
The point still remains that the oldest manuscripts of Josephus, the oldest, contain the reference to Jesus of Nazareth as an historic person.
I can't help that. They're still Middle Ages. You just finished saying this.
But I'm trying to bring the point out that you're arguing from a negative. I have the evidence that it's there. You have no evidence that it isn't.
You don't have any evidence at all dating from the time of Christ's supposed occupation of the earth. You have nothing.
May I?
And you know it, and I know
That's
it.
not true.
You can't name one.
May I? May I name one?
I think if you can name one, you will be a living monument to God from here on in, because the historians have.
I'm a living monument now.
The historians have sought this for how many thousands of years?
Mrs. Murray,
how many hundreds of years?
Mrs. Murray, you don't read history.
Now wait a minute. When the Dead Sea Scrolls were discovered, everybody was excited because they thought,
let him make his point, please.
I'll make the point. I just want to make a point. Go ahead. You made a blunt and all-encompassing statement. You said. He doesn't exist as a historic personage. There's nothing back there in the early contemporary period of Christ, the first and second centuries, to prove this, so forth. All right, now, let me ask you a question. The Jews, who at the time were responsible for the death of Christ, we won't get into the argument of all Jews, but the Jews who at that time were responsible
for the death.
How could they when he didn't exist?
Wait a moment. Even if he existed, the fact is, even the Pope has offset that comment.
Yes, but the High Court of Israel confirmed it.
Oh, come on.
So we got an anti-Semite.
Can I
don't care.
Well, Mrs. Murray, be careful. I am not anti-Semitic.
You can't do anything else when you come up with
Mrs. Murray, be careful. As a lawyer, you should know better. Don't call somebody an anti-Semite. It's a very dangerous word. I'm not.
No, it isn't. It's not libel per se.
I'm not anti-Semite.
You are saying that the Jews, what, you're saying the Jews
are responsible for the death of Jesus Christ.
Just a moment now. Just a moment. Let's even make it easier so we won't have that problem. The Jews.
You better back out of it.
I won't back out of anything.
Well, that's what you're doing when you're saying, let's make it easier. Let's make it difficult and take your statement that Jews were responsible for the death of Jesus Christ.
They were.
You stand there.
They were, and I stand there, along with the New Testament. Now, back to this text. An important point. You maintain there is no evidence.
None whatsoever.
Fine. Are you familiar with the Talmud?
More or less. Make your point.
You are familiar with it?
Make your point.
You just say yes or no.
I said more or less.
Do you know whether the Talmud dates back before the Christian era?
Right at this particular moment, I do not know whether or not the Talmud that is extant now had, it seems to me, what is it, 1200 or something? That it first was written very late.
No.
Very late.
The Talmud.
Very late.
The Talmud, which any good rabbi...